Thank you, Andrea, for that introduction. I'm very happy to be here today. When she told me about this mentoring program, I was surprised. I'd never heard of it, but I thought what a wonderful thing it was and what a wonderful thing it would have been for me to have had when I was growing up. I think I knew I wanted to be a writer when I was about 7 years old. And I wrote my first book. It was a little chapter book illustrated with me. I'm a terrible drawer, and so they're sort of stick figures. And it was called Lost at Sea. And I've often wondered why I wrote a book like that, and it could have been because I was the first black child to go to our school district's white schools. I integrated a school district, and I'd been there a couple of years, and it was kind of hard. So maybe that's how I was feeling when I wrote Lost at Sea, and that was some sort of psychological thing for me. But I always knew I wanted to be a writer. That's my principal identity. And I spent my young years as a teenager, preteen and teenager, writing short stories. And what a wonderful thing it would have been for me down in Conroe, Texas, if I had had a program like this where I could have workshopped some of my stories instead of boring my best friend who wrote her own stories, but I think she was doing that just to sort of humor me, and we could kind of trade things, but she sort of fell off after a time, and I was the one who kept writing and wanted to come to New York and be a famous writer, as a matter of fact. I think in my high school yearbook, they asked us what, they focused on several seniors, and they asked us what it is that we wanted to do, and I think I remember saying that I wanted to come to New York and be a famous writer. And that was my idea of what my goal would be, a famous fiction writer, because my short stories were, obviously they were non-fiction, I mean they were fiction, they were my, things from my imagination, not about history, which I was reading at the same time and which I continued to love, even though I thought of myself as one day perhaps writing the great American novel. I didn't come to New York as a writer. I came to New York as a lawyer, and for a time I tried to continue writing in my spare time. I was an associate at a law firm, and if anybody knows anything about a law firm, you don't have very much spare time. That wasn't a way to improve my writing career. I took classes at Columbia at night. I did, in the graduate program for fiction writing, and was told that my fiction writing sounded very much like essays, although I did have, my professors told me, a talent for dialogue, and if I sort of developed and continued to practice, I might actually be able to become a good fiction writer. I gave that up, however, when I decided that I should meld my two loves, that is to say writing and history, and started writing nonfiction and wrote my first book. But I have to say that the experience of losing myself in the world of fiction, storytelling, things that human beings respond to, I think, naturally, telling stories, was something that has helped me enormously in writing history. So for people out there who think, who know that writing is your vacation, that is your passion, that's who you are, you have an identification as a writer, you never know where you will end up. You could continue in fiction writing, or you may use it in other areas. It stands you in good stead no matter what you do. My first job as a 15-year-old was working at the Conroe Courier, our hometown newspaper, very small hometown newspaper, and it was my job. People, when they had weddings and engagement parties or things like that, they would send in their descriptions of their events to me, to the Conroe Courier, and it was my job to put it in some sort of form that could go in the Conroe Courier. So even there, the practice that I had from doing fiction, the practice that I had from putting my words down on paper, stood me in good stead, even though I was doing something totally different from what I was typically doing on my own. So between my forays into journalism, my writing as a lawyer, and then coming to history, this has all been very, very good for me. I came back from, actually a couple of days ago, I was up in Albany at the Writers Institute up there. I'd given a talk, and they interview you as part of their archives to sort of talk to you about and get you to say how you came to writing. And one of the things that the interviewer said to me, and he was thinking about my new book and having read my new book, he said, I wondered how it was that you could sort of maintain a narrative arc in this work of history in ways that historians don't typically do. You don't see historians typically do that. And then I explained to him that I am a frustrated fiction writer, and having had the occasion to tell stories and to think about a beginning and a middle and an end, that I brought that to bear on my historical writing as well, with footnotes this time, endnotes and things that are true. So it's just a wonderful thing that you young girls are involved in, and I'm so happy when Andrea asked me to do this, that I would be able to participate in it, because as I said, it would have meant so much to me when I was a young girl to have had something like this. As a matter of fact, I have a son, I have 2 children, and when I told my son, who's 16 years old, about this, about girls right now, and he said, well, my goodness, what about boys? He said, can I do that? And I said, well, you know, there are plenty of things for boys, and this is something that's for girls, and we understand why this is necessary for people to feel comfortable and to share ideas and thoughts in a comforting and supportive environment. Not to say that men cannot be comforting and supportive as well, but 16-year-old boys, that's not their strong suit. And he can go off this summer to maybe up to the Writers Institute, and which is a program that I would commend to you as well. Not very expensive. They have scholarships as well, and you spend a week up there writing and meeting other famous authors who happen to be up in taking advantage of New York in the summertime to come up and do some of their writing as well. So that's something that I think you should think about as well. But I'm very, very happy to be here, and this is sort of coming full circle to me, because I feel a kinship with all of you, because you're doing the thing that I always wanted to do, the things that I still may do. I may go back into fiction and try to revive those old feelings and to do those kinds of things, because that's who I feel like inside as a person who's a writer. So keep up the good work, keep up your passion, because it's so important. It's so important to find something in life that you're comfortable doing. And you can do it, and when you do it, it will not seem like work at all. And whether you end up in fiction or whatever you do, the things you're doing right now, the communication skills that you're learning now on paper, as I said, will stand you in good stead no matter what you do. And that is important. Passion and proficiency and practice and all those kinds of things together will make for a wonderful life for you. So I wish you all success and the best of luck in all of your endeavors. Thank you very much.